Hey everyone, welcome to this sewing tutorial on the funnel corset. We're starting by tracing out the patterns. As you can see, this includes the overbust corset with the inner structure, the funnel corset design, the front and the back yoke, as well as the back panels. Now that we have everything laid out, let's get started. For the materials, we'll be using wording, Estee, this beautiful brown crepe fabric, lining. I used suit lining, but you can use spider. This nude crepe fabric, eyelet. We're using two different bonings, that is the plastic and the regular boning. I will tell you the size later because we're using different sizes. Before cutting the fabric and lining pattern, iron the ST on them to prevent stretching. Ensure it is properly positioned and aligned as shown, without slanting to maintain the corset's proper fit. For pattern placement, the brown fabric will be used for the funnel corset, inner funnel corset, and back. The lining for the overbust corset and back lining, and the nude fabric for the overbust inner layer. I trust that is clear. And here are some of the pieces, so make sure you cut all the rest like so. And here's how the placement should look. Here are the center and middle front panel of the overbust lining. Only apply wording to these sections, leaving a ½ inch stitching allowance at the top and stopping at the underbust line. Join the center and middle front panels together first, then attach the side front panels. Begin to join the funnel corset using the main fabric as shown. Start by attaching the middle front to the center front, then join the side front panels using a ½ inch seam allowance on each side. I've joined the fabric and lining of the back panels. Next, we'll shape the overbust lining to form a cone for added structure at the hemline. To achieve this, we'll connect the points on both sides with a curve, ensuring the back lining aligns properly for a smooth fit. Once aligned, we will cut one peplum stay pattern into 4 pieces and attach them to the overbust lining and back lining along both sides of the hemline. Make sure to position the cone-shaped design closer to the middle front panel seam, at least 0.5 inch closer than mine as shown, to better emphasize the shape. Placing it so far can make the cone less defined. Now let's start the bust cage. Follow the curved line shown here and stitch the boning onto the overbust lining. Make sure the boning stays curved as you sew, as straight boning would create a defined bust cage. For the bust cage, we'll be using this regular boning, which is 6 mm. Do not use anything wider than this so that it will be easier to curve while you're sewing. You can see how it looks like at the front of the tape, so make sure you're getting this particular regular boning. So we're going ahead to place the boning right from the side seam part. So we'll be placing the regular boning ½ inch away from the top, and make sure you've gone ahead to curve your regular boning even before you start stitching on it. You can see where I'm placing the regular boning exactly at the end of that underbust point, which I've done like so. Now the next part is to stitch that top part. You can see I'm placing the regular boning on top of that first one which I stitched. Once you get to the center, curve it and take it down like so on a straight line. Okay, so I'll be placing it like this. So make sure you're placing it the same way, and make sure the boning is inside, not on top of the first boning you stitched. So this is how we'll be stitching it. Okay, so make sure you're stitching it like this. You can start by stitching on one side till you get to the end point, then go ahead to stitch again on the second side. I've gone ahead to stitch on both sides, as you can see. So now we can start placing the regular boning on all the curved lines that we placed on this overbust lining. So make sure you're placing it in like so. Don't stitch it flat. Make sure you're stitching like this, raising the cups up so that it will stand. Okay, and make sure you're opening those joinings. Make sure you're opening those joinings and stitching in between them. You can actually trim those joinings at least by 0.25 and leave 0.25, so by the time you're stitching on it, it will be very smooth. So this is how I'll be stitching on my machine. You can see the way I'm raising it, okay, so that the cup would come out. So don't stitch it flat, please. So once that is done, I'll go ahead to do the same on all sides like so. then I'll go ahead and show you. So now you can see how it looks. I'm gonna head to cage the bust. This is how it looks at the back. You can actually screenshot this so that you can follow this step. Okay, so this is how it looks. Everything is out. You can see that. You can see how the bust is standing already. You can see all the curve, the lines. So I'm going to be stitching it again. You can see how I stitched them twice, double on both sides. So make sure you're doing it like so. And we also placed the Regeline boning at that center cup, that side where we joined the middle front and the center front. So make sure you're placing the Regeline boning everywhere. All right, so this is how it looks like. If you notice, by the time you've stitched this and your overbust lining is not standing the way you want it to, that's because there's a little excess we need to stitch. Okay, so you can see this point where I am here. I'm just going to be, stitching that part. That's like probably 0.25 inch. I'm going to be stitching that part so that it rests on the lining. Okay, so I'll be stitching from one end of the sides to the other end, so you can see what I'm trying to say. You can see this part. There's a little bit of bulk right here. I don't know if you've noticed it, but that is where I'll be stitching. So I'll go ahead to, stitch from one side to the other side. You can see the way I'm placing it. Okay, so let's take it as a dot. All right, so we'll just stitch from this point where my fingers are to the other point and close it up. I've stitched it down, so I'll turn it to the side so you can see how it looks at the front. So this is how it looks. Once you press it, it will look very smooth, like nothing happened there. So that is how you want it to look like. Okay, now with that said, I'll go ahead to use the steam iron to press this. Okay, so it will look really flat. In case you don't have a steam iron, you need it to make this corset. I'll go ahead and place Regeline boning on these seams so that it will give it a good hold at that point. So in case you want to place your funnel, it's going to stand properly. So I'll go ahead and stitch both sides of it. So as you're sewing, make sure it's flat like this so that you can get it properly. So this was how I stitched it. Then now you can actually bring it out like so. All right. So now this is the good part. This is how you're going to make your funnel stand. This part, you're going to, press it like this. You're going to press it out like this. Okay. So make sure it's standing very well, because that Regeline boning will give it that structure for it to stand properly. So I'm gonna ahead to do that. Okay, you can see the way I'm doing it. So try your best to make sure that it's standing like so. I went ahead to press the body so that the Regeline boning will be flat. So we'll be using this boning for the cone shape design. So in inches, this is 0.5 inch, and in this is 10 mm. Okay, so this is what we'll be using for the cone shape part. Go ahead to draw out the curved lines like so. So I'll be covering it in 3 places and leaving 0.5 inch by the side. Always try to bend your boning before you stitch so it will be easier to stitch. So you can see that part is where the 0.5 inch allowance is, so do not stitch there. So I'll go ahead to stitch the same way the peplum stay is curved like so. So I'll cut out this one because that is the measurement for it, to make sure the measurement is okay before you cut through. Now I'm going ahead to bend it. So this is how I'll be bending it. So try your possible best to make sure it's bent a bit, alright? Then go ahead to stitch it down. I've stitched out the 3 lines and this is how it looks. So now I'll go ahead to take the back lining and mark those points. So the points have to correlate, okay? Because if they don't correlate, it would not give you that cone shape effect. So I'll be placing the sides like so. Make sure they're matching up with each side. And I'll go ahead to use the pencil to mark the points step by step. Okay, so I'll go ahead to be marking the points like this. And once you're done, you go ahead to stitch the Regeline boning on that part as well. So you'll be doing that for every part. Then go ahead to create the lacing bar for the back lining. So I'll be going in by 0.5 inch from the side and 0.5 inch at the top. So you'll be placing this Regeline boning. This is the 10 mm. So once you take the measurement of the length, you go ahead and cut it, and you'll be placing it on both sides. So once you stitch down the first one, go ahead to stitch down the second one and also the third one. So we'll be doing that on both sides. So here is how it looks. So you go ahead to press it so that it will be straight. So make sure you're stitching it side by side like so. Can you see how the front looks like? So that is how you will be stitching it. Now go ahead to use your iron to straighten it, okay? Now it is time to flesh the bust area. So I've gone ahead to cut out 8 pieces of stay, like so. You can see the size of the stay. So I'll go ahead to place it like so. You can actually use fiber, but for this video, I'll be using stay. So I'll make it align like this and go ahead to turn this part to a dot so that it will blend very well. Can you see that? So make sure you're placing it like this so that it will rest smoothly on the bust cage. So as soon as you do this, you go ahead to place the remaining stay. So this is the second one. Okay. So this is how you will be doing it till you're done. This is the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, and the eighth. Now go ahead to press on it. So in case you're wondering what I'm pressing on, I put a tailor's arm under there. So you can use your nipple to nipple measurements and add 1 inch to it. Then decide the width you're going to use. This is very good for ironing the overbust corset so that it can sit in well and you can use it. So I slashed this part, to the underbust point. So this is because we want the essay to lap very well, on that side. So take note of how you're cutting through, because you don't want to cut through your lining, okay? It's only the stay we're cutting. So you're going to cut to that underbust part so that this stay would lap properly. By the time you're done, this part will look very smooth. So can you see how this looks? Can you see how the curve is blending in properly? So you go ahead to do that at the other side as well. So make sure you're, stretching it very well so that it will lap and balance very, very well. So by the time you're done, it will look very beautiful. So in case you don't have your tailor's hand, please kindly do that, okay? So this is how it looks like and I'm loving it. So by the time you're done pressing it to your satisfaction, because this overbust corset needs a lot of ironing and you have to use steam iron, okay, to get that shape that you want. All right. So when you're ironing, you're going to be ironing in curved motions, not straight, okay? So this is how it looks. Be sure to use a clean iron when pressing the overbust corset to avoid any marks or stain as you're seeing on this. So we'll go ahead to cut it out, and like I said, be careful while cutting and make sure you press all the sides. So I'll be trimming the sides like so, and I'll show you how it looks like. I went ahead to trim the edges and also place an extra stay on it. So I slashed the sides of the stay as you can see, and I'm going to be pressing the one at the top that I slashed, and I'm going to use the other one below to lap it, okay? This is to give it a very smooth finish. So by the time I'm done, I'll go ahead to trim any excess that is on the side. So this is how your overbust should look like by the time you've already fleshed it. So I'll just go ahead and trim those parts that you can see right there. So once I trimmed them, can you see how smooth it is? It stopped right at the underbust side and I keep on ironing. So when I'm satisfied, I'll go ahead to place another stay on it. So make sure you're ironing to your satisfaction. Then go ahead to place another stay like so. This is to cover the body, the whole body of this overbust corset. I'll press it to give it a very good finish. So can you see how this looks? So we'll go ahead to put the overbust inner. So this is where it's going to stay. So we've gone ahead to join the funnel. We've joined the funnel inner and also the back. So now the next thing now is to join the boning, okay, to the funnel corset. So I've gone ahead to cut out straps, okay, for the funnel corset, because we're going to be placing Regeline boning on the body. So we'll be using 10 mm, that is 0.5 inches. And these straps you can cut as much as you want. You can cut so much because you're going to be placing this registry boning at the funnel corset body and also for the back body, and that is the main fabric. So you're going to be placing this on the body. Okay, so I went ahead to cut out 2 inches, or width for the strap, and as long as you want your length to be, I'll go ahead to fold it like so. And once that is done, I'll place the Regeline boning on it to measure it and go ahead to stitch it on the machine. So make sure the size of the strap you're going to do is the same size of your Regeline boning. So by the time you put in the Regeline boning in the case, it will enter properly. This is the first one I did. So now I'm going ahead to put the Regeline boning inside the strap. So you can see the way I'm placing it like so. So you're going to do this till it comes out, alright, and cut it out. So I have done 2 of this and I'll do more. So make sure you're doing more of it. So this is the funnel corset. So now this is the placement of how we are going to put the boning. So we're going to start by putting the boning case on that first side seam. So place your plastic boning here. So you're going to be taking it down to the hemline like so. And then the next one, you're going to put in between the side seams. Just locate the center, then place in between. So you will be placing your plastic boning in between like so. So we're going to be putting 3 on that side. Now for the center front, we're not going to be stitching directly on the side seam. We're going to be placing the plastic bone by the side, okay? So don't stitch on top of the side seam. Place the plastic boning by the side, the way I'm showing you like so. So this is how I'll be placing it. And while sewing, make sure you're stretching, you're opening up, okay, before you stitch. Because if you stitch directly like that, you would have smile lines. So make sure you're opening it up as you're stitching the boning. So for the center, just mark out the center, which I have marked out. You mark out the center at the top and at the bottom, and place the boning also at the center. So make sure you're stretching out, okay, while sewing. Try your possible best to do that so that you won't have any smile lines on the corset. Then can you see how I placed the boning right there too? You're going to be placing the boning right there as well. Just locate the center in between that too and place the boning there. So now I've gone ahead to stitch the boning on the sides. Can you see that? So I want to show you how I'll be placing the center. So this is how I'll be placing the center. You can see how squeezed it is. So when you're stitching, open it up. Try and be opening it up as you're stitching, the way I'm placing my hand, and stitch to the hem, okay? This is how you will stitch everything, or else you will have smile lines on them. So now locate the center like I said and put 1 on each side. So we'll have 8 bonings at the front, and we'll also place bonings at the back. So take note of that as well. This is how the funnel corset looks right now. Now we're going ahead to place the funnel inner. You see all the steps, you don't want to miss them because any step that you miss is going to affect the rest, alright? Make sure you're pinning them in place like so. So I've gone ahead to pin them, and the next step is to put the Regeline boning at the top. So we're going to be using the smallest boning, okay? That is the 6 mm. So make sure you're using it for the funnel part. If you use the bigger one, it will not give you the effects that you want. So I'll be going in by 0.5 inch by this side. Can you see I placed it right there? Now, exactly where that boning stops, I'll place the plastic boning again like this. So we'll go ahead and stretch it out. Can you see the way I'm stretching out the corset? You stretch it out while you're sewing because you don't want it to squeeze there. Because if you don't stretch it out, it won't give you that effect, that funnel effect. So this is how I'll stretch it out. Make sure you're not stitching on those edges and stitch properly, okay? And once you're done, you place another Regeline boning on the armhole side again. So make sure you're crossing it from that point. Can you see how this looks? So make sure you're stretching out when you're stitching it. So this is how it looks like. Then go ahead to trim out the rough edges. Now we've trimmed it. This is how it looks. It looks really neat, okay? So now we're going to be flipping this to the back, as you can see, and go ahead to cut out straps. So we're going to be using these straps to cover the boning. So this strap is 2 inches width. Okay. Now go ahead to decide the length you're going to use, but make sure it's long enough to cover the top part. Okay. So now we're going ahead to stitch on that line where we joined the boning so that once you turn, everywhere is covered. So go ahead to run the stitch like so. So go ahead to fold this side. So make sure once you're done folding this side, you go ahead to fold the other side, okay? So you fold the other side of the armhole before you go ahead to fold the center where the funnel is. So you can see the way I'm folding this. Make sure it's folding and hiding the bone inside. All right. So I'll go ahead and stitch this at the other side first before I, place the strap at the center. Now for the center, we'll be placing the strap like so. So we're going to fold it at least 1 inch fold. So you place it on the machine and stitch it like so. So once you get to the end, you fold it again so you can turn it to the front. Now go ahead to fold it twice and run the stitch. Take a look at how beautiful this looks already. You can see it's already standing, okay? So this is what the Regeline boning will do for you. The body of the back corset will have Regeline boning as shown. I intentionally paused during the sewing process to emphasize the importance of attaching the boning to the main fabric before joining the lining. Now going back to the back lining, we'll be placing this tiny 6 mm Regeline boning on top like so. We'll be crossing it on top and stitching it down. You can see that I left 0.5 inches at the top and also by the side. So we'll just cut this through and cut out any excess as shown. Make sure you don't cut through the lining. Now go ahead to run a stitch on this side as well. Now after placing bonings on the main fabric and the lining, now you can go ahead to join the sides together, okay? Once that is done, go ahead to trim the edges and turn it inside out. Now we'll be running a stitch on these lines where the Regeline boning was stitched because we'll be placing our plastic boning there. So take note of that. We'll go ahead to run the stitch 3 stitches, okay, side by side. And once that is done, you go ahead to place your plastic bonings on them, okay? So we'll be placing only 2 plastic bonings on the sides, leaving the center because the center will be for the eyelet, okay? Now we'll be joining the overbust corset together. We'll be joining the overbust lining with the overbust inner. So we'll be placing the overbust like so, right sides facing each other, and run 0.5 inch stitch on it, okay? Once you're done, make sure you notch the sides. Please do not cut through the fabric. Just notch the sides bit by bit. Then once you're done, trim out the excess. At least trim out 0.25 inches. Then turn it to the front. After turning, ensure you make it rest very well on the cup and tack it, okay, to make it smooth. And I've gone ahead to pin it in place. So make sure you're pinning it. You have to take a look at your pattern to see how you placed the funnel and the overbust on each other. So that is what I did, like so. So make sure your patterns are with you. Do not throw away your patterns. So now I've gone ahead to pin them, carefully, like so. And the next step is to go ahead and press it. When pressing the corset, place a cloth over the fabric before using a steam iron. Focus on the bust area, pressing the underbust while adjusting the overbust forward. Okay, the steam will help shape that corset and make it stand and hold its form. Once you're satisfied with how the body of the corset looks after pressing, now go ahead to join the front and the back together. So you'll be placing it like so. Make sure you're joining it equally. So try your possible best to pin this down, pin it in place. Take your time to stitch this point very well, okay? Make sure you're taking your time because this part is the hardest part to sew. So this is how it should look by the time you're done. Now go ahead to trim out the excess. So leave at least 0.2.5 inch by the side. And if you want the overbust and the funnel to lap properly, you can go ahead to stitch further, okay? So you just place it like so and stitch on this side. And this will help keep it in place, okay? So try your best to run a stitch on that point. Now take a look at it. You can see that it is resting properly on the sides. So the next thing to do is to place your regime boning also on the side to close the seam. So I placed my regime boning and I went down by 1 inch because you need to fold that part, okay? So we'll go ahead and stitch the sides. So make sure you're closing up the strap like so. And once you're stitching, make sure you're opening up. Try your possible best to open up the side as you're sewing and sew carefully, okay? So once you're sewing, be opening up till you get to the hem part. And here is what it looks like once you're done. Take a look at the back. You can see how neat the back looks really good. So we're just going to be joining both sides together because we need to trim out any excess on the side so that everything will be equal by the time you want to hem the down part, okay? So we'll go ahead and fold it like so and try your possible best to trim the edges, okay? Don't trim so much, just trim the little parts that are not equal, and that is it. Now cut out a long strap to hem the corset, okay? So I'll be folding it like so, at least 1 inch, and go ahead to stitch around that hem point, okay? Make sure you close it up at the end the way I did initially. Then go ahead to turn it, all right, and fold it twice and stitch it down. The final step is to attach the eyelets and straps. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. If you have any outfit requests or sewing ideas, feel free to leave them in the comment section, and see you in the next video. Bye!